Mrs. Clear,
Here.
Mr. Rastetter,
Here.
Mrs. Rennie,
Here.
Mrs. Showerman,
Here.
Mr. Shank,
Here.
Mr. Horton.
Here. At this time, we'll be here. We come to the portion of our agenda where we hear from our public. If you called in, you get 5 minutes. And if you just step to the mic and you joined us on the Zoom and desire to speak, we'll allot you 3 minutes. Please just identify yourself and where you live. And we'll have the people who called ahead and are on the agenda go first, which is the Youth Leadership Institute of Erie. And you'll be allotted 5 minutes.
Hello, everybody. Thank you very much, Mr. Horton, for allowing us, Chairman Horton, to allow us to come and be with you guys tonight. My name is Crystal Lepak, and I am one of the youth advisors for Youth Leadership Institute of Erie. I am the certified teacher on staff that helps develop civic programs so our students become civic minded and aware of issues in our not only our community but all around us. So in doing that, part of it is that they learn about government and all the levels and the forms of, and in local government they learn and they like to meet the leaders and have the leaders meet them as well, and just to kind of give you a little bit of what they're doing, and just to keep that freshness going and that connection, because we want to show them, our leaders are not untouchable. We can go to them with concerns and show them how things in government run and how that ultimately will affect them and their families, so that they are caring about our community and they stay in our community. So thank you again for this time. I'm going to yield my time to Elena McCreary. She is our president of our Youth Advisory Board, and she will be going ahead and talking a little bit about what it is that she does. And so Aliana, if you are on, I would like for you to go ahead and unmute yourself and present yourself. That's okay?
But we want to move that to a 7% increase. So I want to separate K, not Q. So K.
Muted.
Doesn't look like she's muted. It just looks like we can't hear her.
Well, your time is ticking. Would you like to, Ms. Lepak, would you like to continue or?
Yes. So Aliana, for some reason, we could not hear you. If you can at any time, you can go ahead. But what she was trying to say, are you there?
I'm here.
No. Okay. Love technology, don't we? Yes, well, that's okay. Anyways, as of our youth advisory, are you there? Okay, I heard somebody talking, so I thought that was her. But anyway, she's the president of our youth advisory board, and as part of her job, she oversees the students and a board of 9 members, and they are learning about parliamentary procedure and how to run a board and become advisors to the youth that they have in committees, and each committee has a chair. So part of their journey in youth leadership is learning not only how to become a leader and a servant to your community, but also how does all that work and the behind the scenes logistics and fundraising and program development and research and development. So all those things that you you all are actually doing in your committees and things like that. We're trying to teach them at a junior, a youth level, so at a junior level on that aspect. So it's an awesome opportunity. And we are collaborating now with Youth in Government with the Y program in Harrisburg, and the kids are in the form, they did this a couple years already, so they are in the process of making their bills. So they will write mock legislative bills and present them at a model at Harrisburg, hopefully in person in April. But if not, got to keep everybody safe. It'll be all zoomed up for convention. So right now, our youth are looking at 2 topics.
Big Pot, you've reached your 5-minute total.
Okay.
I do like to hear from young people. And so if Aliana's taking care of her audio technical difficulties and she'd like to chime in, I will allow it. Hearing, seeing none, we'll move on to Mr. Derek Martin, the Airport Authority Director.
Thank you, Chairman and Council. I had my assistant send my written comments to Mr. Smith. Mr. Smith was going to relay it to the council that went out at 4 o'clock today. I got an email from Mrs. Clear with regards some clarification. So if a few things are not correct, I apologize, but I want to read this as written. This stems from a conversation that started on December 4th with Mr. Smith. My note says as follows: in the fall of 2018, Erie City Mayor Joe Schembecker and County Executive Kathy Dahlkemper did a public solicitation for new board members for the Erie Metropolitan Transit Authority. Shortly thereafter, I had meetings with members of City, County, and Erie Council to better understand the process for the selection of Airport Authority board members. I met with Ms. Ramos, Chief of Staff for the Mayor, Liz Allen, City Council person, in January 2020. The meeting was to solicit the skill sets of new board members that would be best beneficial to the Airport Authority, as they were trying to create a process for selecting Airport Authority board members. With the input of both current Airport Authority board and staff, the following list of beneficial characteristics for new board members was presented to the city. 1, a vision and ability to see the big picture and focus on long-term goals. 2, have some understanding of the aviation industry, including how airport projects are funding and how airport generates revenue. 3, be business-minded and have the ability to make decisions that benefit the growth of the airport as a regional asset, not making decisions based on what's popular opinion at the time. 4, have no personal stake, so the board's decisions are made in the best interest of the airport as a whole. And 5, willingness to prepare for meetings and be computer efficient. Most recently, I spoke to members of Erie County Council regarding the process to appoint Airport Authority board members. During my investigation, I found there was no requirement the appointee individuals reside in the appointing officials district. Currently, County Council has 7 members. We have 4 seats on our board. With the incorrect notion that there are geographical requirements for appointment, 3 county council members never get to appoint or not involved in the process. On December 4th, 2020, I reached out to Mr. Smith at the county clerk's office to inquire about the status for Mr. Holman possible reappointment to the airport board. Also inquired about the appointment of seat soon to be vacant by outgoing authority president Chris Parker. After some checking with Mr. Smith, he indicated Councilman Brian Shank is presenting Jason Morrell for appointment to the Airport Authority board, possibly as today's meeting. On hearing that, I stated to Mr. Smith that Mr. Morrell is a full-time employee of the Erie Regional Airport Authority. Mr. Smith stated that it was communicated to Councilman Shank that Mr. Morrell's position at the Airport Authority had been eliminated. I am here to state, per the collective bargaining unit with the General Teamsters Local 397, in which Mr. Morrell is a union steward, Mr. Morrell is still authority payroll, and he's currently being paid on a monthly basis and is on workman's comp. I stated to Mr. Smith that Jason Morrell being appointed to the airport board is a conflict of interest. Mr. Smith agreed. The Airport Authority is unique. The airport is the lifeblood of multiple universities, hospitals, and businesses, including Mercyhurst University, LECOM, Erie Insurance, all which employ thousands of people in this county. Erie Regional Airport Authority would like to see a process developed for selected board members in an effort to avoid conflicts of interest. The authority believes existing employees or one who has been employed by an organization in the past 7 years should not be considered for a board appointment. The Erie Regional Airport Authority takes no local taxpayer dollars and is self-sufficient. And I thank you for your time.
Thank you, Director Martin. Thank you. Any other citizens desiring to be heard? Any other citizens desiring to be heard?
I would please.
Yep, you have 3 minutes, Ms.
All right.
Taylor.
My name is Margaret Taylor. I am a constituent and I am asking to present information about the National Infrastructure Bank Coalition. This is something that I have been interested in and researching. It is now currently House Bill HR 6422. It's modeled on 4 previous banks in our nation's history. This legislation would create a government-owned bank that would lend up to $4 trillion to state and local governments to repair and upgrade public infrastructure. It has advantages over other proposals now under discussion. At $4 trillion, it's adequately sized to finance projects in every state. It would yield less traffic congestion, pollution, fix lead-free water, provide for new schools, affordable housing, mass transit, broadband everywhere, creates 25 million new jobs, pays union wages, could possibly rehire 22 million Americans who are now unemployed, could provide training in permanent new construction and related occupations, could stimulate businesses from all new construction to transportation and energy, would use materials generated only in the United States. It would create jobs and opportunities coming out of the coronavirus collapse of the economy and promote long-term growth. It's budget neutral. It creates no new federal debt. It requires no new taxes. It's not dependent on pay-as-you-go financing. No other infrastructure or jobs proposal in the budget is budget neutral like this one. I'm urging County Council to endorse this bill, HR 6422. Other counties that have endorsed it are Lancaster, Allegheny, Northampton. Other municipalities would include Pittsburgh and Allentown. I sent more information to Kim Clear. I'm in your district to review, and I'm hoping that maybe we can jump on board this bus.
Would Ms. Taylor, can you repeat that House bill number?
It's HR 6422.
Okay, great.
Now, in the Pennsylvania Assembly, there's a House resolution that was introduced by Nielsen, co-sponsored by Bob Mursky. That was in 2019. That was House Resolution number 636. There's also a PA Senate resolution. It was introduced by Boscala, Costa, Hughes, Schwank, and Udichak. This was in June of this year. That's resolution number 338.
Ms. Taylor, your 3 minutes have elapsed.
Thank you.
Thank you. Is there any other citizens desiring to be heard?
I would.
Who's I would?
Aliana McQuarrie. Oh, can you guys see me?
Yeah, we like to see who we're talking to. You might pass that on to your advisor.
Sorry.
You have,
Hello.
yes. Tell us who you are.
My name is Aliana McQuarrie. I go to Collegiate Academy. I'm in 10th grade. My position, I'm with the Youth Leadership Institute. My position is the president of the Youth Advisory Board. That means I take care of all of my board members and my committee, and I oversee all of the projects that we do for the community. Right now, we're working on a mock bill for our youth in government, which we have joined in the PA State YMCA of Western PA. We are researching 2 topics, discussing them with the youth: changes that they would like to see not only locally but in the state level as well. Here we are immersed in some of the rules and House, Senate, judiciary, press, lobbyists, and for YLI, we will have representatives in both House and Senate with students ranging from 9th to 12th grades. With these programs, like youth leadership, we the youth are given a chance at opportunities we would not have dreamed of we would not have dreamed of having without being in YLI. YLI gives students the confidence to reach their potentials and opportunities to learn from their members and leaders of the Erie community. Thank you for my time. I would like to yield my time to the floor.
Check you out. You done learned some stuff, young lady. She said she'd like to yield her time to the floor. We should all learn something. Thank you. You got me wanting to sing I'm Just a Bill hanging out on Capitol Hill. Thank you for, and Ms. Lee Pat, and certainly Director Edison Nichols.
Thank you for having me.
Mhm. Any other citizens desiring to be heard? Any other citizens desiring to be heard? Seeing, hearing none, I'll entertain a motion to accept the minutes from our November 10th and November 17th, 2020 regular meetings.
So moved.
I'll second it.
It's been properly moved and seconded by Councilpersons Schenk and Showerman. Is there any discussion? Call for the question, please, Mr. Smith.
On the minutes, Mr. Anderson,
Yes.
Mrs. Clear,
Yes.
Mr. Rastetter,
Yes.
Mrs. Rennie,
Yes.
Mrs. Showerman,
Yes.
Mr. Shank,
Yes.
Chairman Horton,
Yes. The county executive has indicated that there's no report tonight by her or her designee. And so we'll move right to number 6, item B, the Finance Committee by Finance Chairwoman Clear.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The Finance Committee met on December 3rd, and tonight the Finance Committee is presenting letters A through D under new business, as well as R through U, X, as well as double B and double G. Thank you. That concludes my report, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. I think we're going to add, oh no, we have to amend that later to add HH to it. We'll get some clarification on all of this stuff from our clerk before we proceed. Personnel Committee, Chairman Rennie.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The Personnel Committee met on Thursday, December 3rd, and I am submitting items for tonight's agenda, E through Q and Y through AA. And it is my understanding we should have one more item added to the agenda later in an amended form, which you mentioned.
Yep, that'll be item HH.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you. That concludes my report.
Great. I believe at this time we have 4 citations, and we would like those names entered and read into the record. And we could do so at this time.
Would you like me to do that, Mr. Chairman?
Either you or the clerk. I think that you brought them forward. It would be appropriate.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. County Council, from time to time, recognizes people in our community who have had a personal effect on our lives, or certainly an effect on our communities. And during this time, we certainly have many people that have passed this year. many and unfortunate circumstances. And we have 4 people tonight that we have prepared a citation for. We just want their name read into the record and for their family to know that we're thinking about them and thinking about the things that they have done for their family, friends, and their community. And those people are William Bill Lynch, Andrea Morgan, James Domino, and former District Justice Carmi Hogan Munch. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Vice Chairman Anderson. Let the record reflect that those will be added and logged amongst the annals and historically memorialized on this date. Listen, I'm going to, before we get into the agenda, I'm going to make a few comments. This will be my last meeting serving as chair for the calendar year 2020. And I just need to thank some people. I've had the privilege of working with some of the most amazing colleagues and meeting and making new relationships. We've accomplished many things, and we've been able to better this community even in the face of a global pandemic. Our first meeting in January after we reorganized, Councilwoman Clear brought forth a resolution to ban conversion therapy. I think right then we set the tone that Erie County would be an accepting and a tolerant place, more tolerant, and we passed that resolution for Erie County. We didn't get our feet wet well before March hit. We were supposed to have an evidentiary hearing to hopefully approve a community college, and COVID-19 hit. So it would have been challenging enough for all of us, having lost almost 90 years of institutional knowledge, but we gained bright, visionary, imaginative, skillful, caring people to replace them. And you all have done a tremendous job. We quickly moved into opening up the day reporting center that our former colleague, Councilwoman Law, lobbied for years. And we opened up that building at a pretty penny, but nonetheless, we should be able to do wraparound services. Speaking with Director Markowitz, everything was going really, really well. But again, global pandemic of COVID-19 changed everything. You guys were amazing. You were amazing because you were charged with delivering a new voting machine, a new voting system with new voting rules, with new voting personnel. And you did it. Not only did you do it, you did it with class. You did it, you were the first. Erie County was the first to put out a drop box for the election. And which was huge. We put it out before Philadelphia, Pittsburgh, any other municipality, big or small. We had to roll out the Act 77 and educate the public on the vote because it was going to be a paper ballot. We purchased new machines the previous year, but we didn't have a printer. And so we sought out a local printer so that we could spend local dollars right here in Erie County. And we found one in Northeast, and we contracted with them, and they've done a wonderful, wonderful job. The county executive declared a state of emergency, and at the conclusion of that state of emergency, historically, Erie County, we extended the state of emergency. This truly was a historic year. We were able to distribute food through a pilot program that we worked out with a community partner, ECRA, a COVID-19 quick response fund. And we fed so many thousands of people through that fund. We put initially, I believe we put $100,000 in there, and the program was proved to be so needed and so successful that we came back and we put another $150,000 in it. Here's where I pause to get up off of County Council for a minute and just give a big hand of thanks to the administration, County Executive Dahlkemper, and Director of Administration, Gary Lee, the Director of the Health Department, Miss Melissa Lyons, and Char Barringer, and the rest of the entire staff at the Health Department. They did a fantastic and a tremendous job, once again proving that our predecessors had the wisdom and the forethought to keep our health department at a time when over the years people were saying, well, we should not have one. And it made all the difference in the world in this pandemic. It was like a gift that really keeps on giving, and they couldn't have done it without the emergency management and Dale up at the public safety building and Director Grappy and all of that. We were able to distribute CARES funding to much needed small businesses, keeping them afloat financially and being brokers of hope to them. We were able to do the same for many of the nonprofits, both big and small. We were able to impact volunteer fire departments that Councilman Shank always championed and made sure that they were never left out of the equation. We were able to do those things. We were able to do those things, and we'll be able to do more of those things when we work together. We established a community college along the way. How about that? We're the first in the Commonwealth in 27 years. We're the first in the United States in 10 years. People are looking, we're the apple of their eye waiting to see what this college will become, this workforce development site. You have the eyes of the country on you, whether it was the Atlantic magazine or the Brookings Institute, the Wall Street Journal, the Washington Post. Once again, I dare say, the general election flipped around, you had the international community on it. We were stretched so far, our staff, Nicole, Mr. Smith, Jill Pensy, Tanya Fernandez, and the entire voter registration staff. You were a profile in courage and a profile in professionalism under duress, while those who would seek to derail us could not knock us off of our mission and our objective, and you met it, and you met it well. Along the way, we also were able to partner with the administration and the health department to declare and to decree that racism is a problem in Erie, Pennsylvania, Erie County. And we declared and we decreed it, that racism is a health crisis right here in our own backyard. And that's no small thing. That takes courage to examine oneself. My hope and my prayer is that we put our money where our mouth is on that, because from my perspective, anything less than a policy change or a budgetary line item, it's all rhetoric. I like to tell you that it was all rosy along the way, but it wasn't. There are some things that we perhaps could do better and that we're looking to do better. But I can tell you we helped recreation, parks, and everything in between. Erie County is a behemoth of services. And I'm proud to say that I serve with 6 of the most amazing colleagues at a time of crisis, a historical moment, a moment in history. And when they ask, what happened in Erie County in 2020, the dreaded 2020, where were you and what did you do? What did you do to enhance or to help Erie Countyans? You will say that you were at the forefront, that we rose to the occasion, and that we kept Erie County and its 278,000 residents, not only at the forefront of our thoughts, but in our hearts and in our prayers. And I will say to not only you all, but our solicitor, certainly our new CPA, and certainly Mr. Maloney, we owe you a debt of gratitude. Certainly you all have, it's been an honor and a privilege to serve as your chair, as your rudder, as we navigated and charted our way through the most transformational time in Erie County history since the adoption of the Home Rule Charter. And you all did it, and I thank you for it. That's my report. And we'll move on to seeing no old business. We'll move on to item 8 and new business.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
before Finance Chair Clear amends the agenda, and I apologize for this. There's some items that I had out of order and I'd like to clarify. Can we separate out K? Not Q was not what I was looking for. It was K. And I said Q.
Yep.
And then can we also separate out N? This is after we take them to a second reading,
Mm-hmm.
when we vote on them.
Great.
And would it be possible for us to go out of order and do P before N? Because if we won't need to do anything to N if P goes through the way it is. If it is tabled as I'm going to ask, then we would need to make a change to N.
So
can we go out of order and read
Hold on.
P before N?
can we just amend the agenda and make PN and NP?
Whatever is the easiest would be fine with me.
Yeah, that's probably the easiest and less confusing. So, and let's get some clarity on it, on what we're going to do right here, right now, because Finance Chair Clear is going to move that we where's my notes? It's going to move that we move items. Well,
Yes.
she has them.
Mr.
All
Chair,
the way to Q. Is it B through C through Q, right?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
To a second.
Yes.
Okay, and then we're going to separate out not Q, but P. I mean, but K, but
K, N, O, and P.
K, N, O, and P.
Right.
And you'll make that motion, or Finance Chair.
I can do it together if you'd like, Mr. Chairman.
Would you please?
Okay.
For the sake
And then
of continuity. Yes,
if you wouldn't mind having her then switch the numbers N and P.
yeah. Amend the agenda, Finance Chair Clear, to reflect that we're amending the agenda where item N is now P and P is now N. And finally, you'll need to add H8.
Got it
Yeah,
as well. Okay.
yeah. Everybody clear? Mr. Smith, you clear, I know. And so, okay.
Let me try this. Okay, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to amend the agenda. I would like to move items C through Q to a second. And in doing so, we would be, also, I would like to amend the agenda to switch items N and P. And in addition, to separate out K, N, O, and P. One more addition to that, Mr. Chairman, I would like to add item HH, which is an appointment to the HRC board, brought forth by Mr. Anderson. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
It's been properly moved. I'll entertain a second.
Second.
It's been properly moved and seconded by Councilpersons Clear and Anderson. Is there any discussion? Hearing seen none, I call for the question on the amendment.
Mrs. Clear,
Yes.
Mr. Rastetter,
Yes.
Mrs. Rennie,
Mary, wake up.
Oh, apologies, I didn't realize I was muted. Yes, I'm sorry.
Mrs. Showerman,
Yes.
Mr. Shank,
Yes.
Mr. Anderson,
Yes.
Chairman Horton.
Yes. Mr. Smith, may I have the second reading of ordinance number 109, 2020, in title only, please?
Mr. Chairman, I think that's a We left A and B as a
Oh.
first read.
Oh, I'm sorry. Great.
Mr. Chairman,
We actually need to amend. I
We
was.
need to, yeah, we need to
I'm
do
so
something.
sorry. I wanted to wait. I wasn't sure if you were supposed to say it first. Mr. Chairman, I would actually like to make an amendment as well to a few ordinances. I would like to amend A to read, thank you. The ordinance, it would be ordinance number 1 of 2021, and it would be the second 2021 general, et cetera. So I would be changing that language. In B, I would be changing the language to the ordinance number 2 of 2021.
I think,
Oh, I can only do one at a time.
no, I think I'm not, I don't think that, I think these should be tabled. They should be first and tabled. I don't think you can, I know we had this discussion, but I thought about it. They're already on our agenda as is, so you have to amend the agenda first to deal with those two. And Mr. Smith, you can, or Tom, you could stop me if I'm speaking out of sorts. And I think that once you amend those to Tom's previous comments, that anything that you do in 2020 should be 2020, and then deal with that and the amendment of that in 2021. And so, Tom, would you chime in, or Doug?
Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Chairman, yeah, I think right now it's a 2020 ordinance, and you could read it as a first reading. If the council doesn't intend to move it to a second reading, then it'll appear on the agenda next year for a second reading, and at that time, it could be amended to reflect 2021.
Yes, and so it was my mistake because I lapsed. I knew we were doing C through the end, second readings, and I started there. But actually, I should have asked Mr. Smith to read the first reading of ordinance 109/2020, and just hung it out there, and then did the first reading of ordinance number 110, and then the new year we'll deal with it. It'll turn into ordinance number 1, 2, and I think D was 3 or something like that. Yeah. Are we all clear?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
then if we do that, the only other one that might need to be worked on is because we moved number D to a second reading, which was intended to be a number 3 of 2021. So would that have to be, would the title have to be changed on that one tonight, since we're going to vote on that? Which then we could probably do when we get to that one, right?
Mm-hmm.
Actually, Mr. Chairman, sorry, this is Doug.
Please.
Or
I think you
since we're
could just-
voting on it, is it okay the way it is?
That's what I was going to say. You could leave item D just the way it is.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Except for it's a second reading.
Right, we moved
Yes,
it to a second.
yes, sir.
Okay. Okay, we got
Thank
it.
you.
Okay, we got, thank you, guys. Okay, so, Mr. Smith, would you please read the first reading of ordinance number 109 of 2020? Man, I'm always learning.
First reading of ordinance number 109, 2020. 34th, 2020 general fund budget, supplemental appropriation of $150,000 and new line for grant funds to the Erie Regional Chamber and Growth Partnership.
Mr. Smith, I also would like read the first reading of ordinance number 110, 2020 in title only.
A first reading of ordinance number 110, 2020, 35th, 2020 general fund budget, supplemental appropriation of $250,000 and new line for grant funds to the Erie County Redevelopment Authority.
Now, please have the second reading of ordinance number 111 of 2020 in title only, please.
A second reading of ordinance number 111, 2020, second 2020 drug and alcohol abuse fund budget, supplemental appropriation of $351,000 in additional behavioral health special initiative revenue for calendar year 2020.
So moved.
Second.
Been properly moved and seconded by Councilperson Showerman and Anderson. Is there any discussion on the ordinance? Call for the question.
On ordinance 111, Mr. Rastetter,
Yes.
Mrs. Rennie,
yes,
Mrs. Showerman,
Yes.
Mr. Shank,
Yes.
Mr. Anderson,
Yes.
Mrs. Clear,
Yes.
Chairman Horton,
Yes.
Mr. Chairman, I'm just one more clarification before we go to the next one. I think that the mistake on here and what we were trying to change, but we went backwards, is we've moved this to a second and we're dealing with it in 2020, but it actually says first 2021 general fund. So was that the one that that's what we were supposed to change, right? Was changing that back to a 2020 since we moved it to a second?
Yeah.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir.
Actually, past practice, it's a 2021 ordinance technically, but it's involving 2021 funds. So as it's written, it is in fact, at least the practice that we've done in the past. I apologize. I created a lot of confusion.
No, it's just an example that how long you've been here. You're learning, so that means I don't know much. We're all still learning. Yeah, so we'll leave that. Tom, you want to chime in? Are we good?
We're talking about the one you just moved to a second reading and voted on?
No, the one we're about to vote on, item D, ordinance
Item D.
112.
Yeah, to me, regardless of past practices, the ordinance is passed this year. It might be a 2021 budget, which is fine. That just says where the money's coming from, whether it's 2020 or 2021. But the ordinance is today. If council's going to pass an ordinance today, it should be dated this year.
I agree. It won't impact the money, right?
No.
Okay, so we're good.
So we should change it to 2020 instead of 2021?
Yes, sir. Yes,
Thank
sir. So I'm entertaining a motion to amend that. I know I'll entertain a motion to amend that.
So moved.
Second.
It's been properly moved and seconded by Councilpersons Shank and Anderson. Is there any discussion? Roll call, please.
On the amendment, Mrs. Rennie,
Yes.
Mrs. Showerman,
Yes.
Mr. Shank,
Yes.
Mr. Anderson,
Yes.
Mrs. Clear,
Yes.
Mr. Rastetter,
No.
Chairman Horton,
Yes. May I have the second reading of ordinance number 112 of 2020 as amended?
the second reading of ordinance 112, 2020. First, 2021. Well, honestly, Mr. Chairman, I'm a bit confused there. Are we saying that you don't want the 2021 general fund employed on this ordinance?
Right, that's what we removed.
We're saying this should be first reading of ordinance number 112 of 2020, the general fund budget.
So that would make it believe the 36th general fund budget supplemental appropriation of $54,140 for courts computer software upgrade.
correct. I'll entertain a motion to receive that.
So moved.
Second.
It's been properly moved and seconded by Councilpersons Anderson and Clear. Any discussion? Hearing seen none, I call for the question.
Mrs. Showerman,
Yes.
Mr. Shank,
Yes.
Mr. Anderson,
Yes.
Mrs. Clear,
Yes.
Mr. Rastetter,
yes,
Mrs. Rennie,
yes,
Chairman Horton.
Yes. Mr. Smith, may I have the second reading of ordinance number 113 of 2020 in title only, please?
Second reading of ordinance number 113, 2020, 2021, appointed official salary ordinance, Director of Finance.
So moved.
Second.
Probably moved and seconded by Councilpersons Anderson and Clear. Roll call, please.
Ordinance 113, Mr. Shank,
Yes.
Mr. Anderson,
Yes.
Mrs. Clear,
Yes.
Mr. Rastetter,
yes,
Mrs. Rennie,
yes,
Mrs. Showerman,
Yes.
Chairman Horton,
Yes. Second reading of ordinance number 114 in title only, please.
a second reading of ordinance number 114, 2020, 2021, appointed official salary ordinance, Director of Administration.
So moved.
Second.
Been properly moved and seconded by Councilpersons Anderson and Clear. Call for the question.
On ordinance 114, Mr. Anderson,
Yes.
Mrs. Clear,
Yes.
Mr. Rastetter,
yes,
Mrs. Rennie,
yes,
Mrs. Showerman,
Yes.
Mr. Shank,
Yes.
Chairman Horton,
Yes. Second reading of ordinance number 115 of 2020 in title only, please.
second reading of ordinance number 115, 2020, 2021, appointed official salary ordinance, Public Defender.
So moved.
Second.
Been properly moved and seconded by Councilpersons Showerman and Anderson. Roll call.
On ordinance 115, Mrs. Clear,
Yes.
Mr. Rastetter,
yes,
Mrs. Rennie,
yes,
Mrs. Showerman,
Yes.
Mr. Shank,
Yes.
Mr. Anderson,
Yes.
Chairman Horton,
Yes. Second reading of ordinance number 116 of 2020 in title only, please.
a second reading of ordinance number 116, 2020, 2021, appointed official salary ordinance, full-time assistant public defender.
So moved.
Second.
It's been properly moved and seconded by Councilpersons Anderson and Clear. Call for the question.
On ordinance 116, Mr. Rastetter,
yes,
Mrs. Rennie,
yes,
Mrs. Showerman,
Yes.
Mr. Shank,
Yes.
Mr. Anderson,
Yes.
Mrs. Clear,
Yes.
Chairman Horton,
Yes. Second reading of ordinance number 117, 2020, in title only, please.
second reading of ordinance number 117, 2020, 2021 appointed official salary ordinance, full and part-time assistant public defenders.
So moved.
Second?
Been properly moved and seconded by councilpersons Anderson and Clear. Roll call, please.
On ordinance 117, Mrs. Rennie,
Yes.
Mrs. Showerman,
Yes.
Mr. Shank,
Yes.
Mr. Anderson,
Yes.
Mrs. Clear,
Yes.
Mr. Rastetter,
yes,
Chairman Horton,
Yes. Second reading of ordinance number 118 of 2020, in title only.
second reading of ordinance number 118, 2020, 2021 appointed official salary ordinance, county solicitor.
So moved.
Second.
It's been properly moved and seconded by councilpersons Clear and Anderson. Call for the question.
On ordinance 118, Mrs. Showerman,
Yes.
Mr. Shank,
Yes.
Mr. Anderson,
Yes.
Mrs. Clear,
Yes.
Mr. Rastetter,
yes,
Mrs. Rennie,
Yes.
Chairman Horton,
Yes. Second reading of ordinance number 119 of 2020, in title only.
second reading of ordinance number 119, 2020, 2020 appointed official salary ordinance, county clerk.
So moved.
Second?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, Chairman.
I'd like to ask to amend this ordinance and to amend the ordinance to read that the salary would be based on a 7% increase from 2020 instead of 3%. And it would make the salary reflected from 76,011 to 81,300.
It's been properly moved.
I'll second it.
It's been properly moved and seconded by councilpersons Anderson and Showerman. Any discussion?
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, ma'am.
Moving it to a 7% raise would effectively remove this position from the pay matrix that was approved by county council. So I would object to this, and I will be voting no.
Any other
To-
members of? I'm
Yeah,
sorry.
Mr. Chairman,
Councilwoman Rennie? Were you,
Mr. Chairman.
what, Councilwoman Rennie, were you finished?
Yes, I just wanted to say that it would remove it from the pay matrix, and so I would vote against the 7% in this form.
Mr. Chairman.
Vice Chairman Anderson.
We had long discussion on this at our caucus meeting and received information from our solicitor that this is a position that county council, it's under our purview, and we set the salary, we set the guidelines, we set the pay matrix. Whether this is in the pay matrix or not, whether it fits neatly into where the administration would like county council's people, that we have control of and we employ to fit nicely in their pay matrix or not is irrelevant, as we were told earlier. This is our authority to determine how our people are paid, and this is our clerk. And so it doesn't take them out of the pay matrix. It puts it right where it should be under the home rule charter, which specifically gives us authority, which, as our solicitor has told us, supersedes any pay matrix that ever comes and goes. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Any other discussion from members of council?
Chairman?
Yes, yes, Councilman Rastatter?
Yeah, this is what I was trying to clarify earlier. I don't know why we're arguing over the semantics of it all. But doesn't it just bump this pay up to up a couple grades on the pay matrix where it should be? And why do we have to say whether it's in the pay matrix or not? It's up to us. But basically, whether it's in the pay matrix or not, it's not affecting the pay matrix. And I think we should bump them up a couple classes.
Any other members of council?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, ma'am.
if I may be permitted to say one more thing. County council sets the salaries for everyone. And we do so now by way of this pay matrix that was approved last year by county council. There is a method for reclassification. We can do that at any point. We can take that through the process. But simply because a position reports to county council, it is still a county employee that we are talking about, and therefore must be taken in the context of the pay matrix. To do anything different is to completely disqualify the pay matrix. And it's wrong and it's not appropriate. And I will be voting no.
Councilwoman Clear.
And I don't know that we can, if we're allowed to, or if I'm allowed to ask Attorney Tallarico a question, our solicitor.
Sure.
You know, is there language somewhere, Mr. Tallarico, that that states in that pay matrix that there are certain people exempt from the pay matrix, or is any appointed official automatically assumed not to be in the pay matrix? And that question's for Attorney Tallarico. I think he
May want to direct that to HR. I see we have Amanda Iadeluca on the line.
He froze for a minute. I think he's back now.
Okay.
Yes. Well, you know, you could even look at the language in the Human Resources Code. And the memo that I provided to you, it specifically says, it excludes the county executive, the director of administration, the director of finance, the county solicitor, the director of human resources, and the county clerk. Those are the officials that it excludes. I mean,
So
you'd have to cross out county clerk in order to go along with the idea that the county executive appoints his salary or sets his salary, and the county council just approves it. That was not the intention of Mr. Nick or whoever did that planning code. Instead, they made it consistent with the HRC. You know, what council fails to understand or appreciate is that you're a separate legislative body. There's no foul play here at all. The pay plan is consistent with the home rule charter, and the county clerk is consistent with another appointed official by the county executive. It couldn't be clearer.
So the language does state then, Attorney Talarico, that the county clerk is not in that pay matrix.
Well, no, it doesn't say it that way. It says that, look, under the Home Rule Charter, I think it's Article 11, Section 8, or Article 5, Section 8. That specifically gives council, not the county executive, council, the authority to set the salaries for the county executive and the other officers that she appoints and the county clerk. Then you have this other law come around called the Human Resources Code that classifies all of the employees. And that's wonderful. That's a great tool. But it also, in the Human Resources Code, says exactly what the Home Rule Charter says. It includes the county clerk as an official whose salary is established by county council. And in the other event, when it comes to the county executive and the other administrative officers, county council establishes those as well. All of the other appointments it approves, but council establishes what the county executive makes, what the director of administration makes, what the director of personnel makes, what the county clerk makes. That's council's authority.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, Councilman Anderson.
Thank you. And thank you for recognizing me again. I have to say, I'm very disappointed that any member of council would just hand our authority away to the administration in any capacity, but particularly in this one, which is so clear. I mean, we were willing to even, take care of the other administrators and be fair across the board. Yet those people on council that work for the administration, refuse to understand that it is our duty and responsibility and authority to set those salaries. I don't know how many times our solicitor can say it the same way or a different way, saying the same thing. They are exempt people. We could have set their salary. They chose to say, let's leave it the way it was at the 3%. No matter what they say, they're not in the pay matrix. They are exempt from the pay matrix because the Home Rule Charter supersedes the pay matrix. This does not undermine the pay matrix because of these appointed officials. This does not make them not employees of the county. They follow the human resources once their salary is set. But for the purposes of setting the salary, we set the salary. Our solicitor has said this is completely within our guides to do it. And so therefore, that's why we've moved it and seconded it.
Any other members of council desiring to be heard? Councilman Shank.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Being one of the new members, this is a huge learning curve for myself. I won't speak for my other council persons. But, the thing that I'm really looking at is I understand what Mr. Talarico is saying, Mr. Anderson, the whole group. The thing I'm looking at is we literally just gave the taxpayers a tax increase. And here we are looking at 7% pay increases for our upper management, our folks that don't make bad money, and let's be honest. And I'm just looking at the optics of a 7% pay raise, and I'm not feeling all warm and fuzzy about it. I understand the matrix. I understand what our solicitor's saying. I get it. What I'm looking at is that 7%. And that tomorrow, when it ends up in the paper, that we gave our administration a 7% pay raise after we just raised the taxes on the little guy, I'm not feeling that 7% number. So that's all I have to say. And as per our lesson earlier, I yield back. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, Councilman Shank. Any other members?
Chairman,
of
if
council?
I may,
Yes, you may.
thank you. First off, I believe we're only giving 7% to one position. And I think it's well deserved for that position. Because our authority has been taken from us so many times. And if I recall, the administration came down with last year or the year before and changed over 20 classifications in the pay matrix to
28.
give their people a pay raise. So there you go. Thank you.
Any other members of council to be heard? Well, let me say this. Thank you, Counselor, for doing the research on that. It's kind of hard not to consider them part of the matrix when we built the matrix around them. They initiated it with the first 3%, and they negotiated that same 3% with the bargaining unit. So the authority is ours to hire and set the appointment. Set the salary. Just like it's hers. They're giving that 3% according to the pay matrix. They've already received raises, all those positions, according to the pay matrix. And so you can't have both. I moved, and 7% is bothersome to me as well. And I moved that wisdom just speaks better things. I moved that we go, because I thought we would do 3% like everyone else, and then justify any additional, should there be additional costs through the scope of work. And it's an easy justification, but to go about it this way, again, just it lends itself to others wanting to do the same thing. And I don't think that's healthy. I would much rather give 3% to that position and revisit it, submit the proper paperwork through JLNet and try to get it reclassified that way, as opposed to a flat. Here, we're going to give you 7%. I agree with Councilman Shank. Man, what's today's date? I agree with Councilman Shank.
See, it's possible.
It's possible.
Dogs and cats can live together.
We're working across the aisle. 7% seems a bit hefty. We also, and this has nothing to do with the ordinance on the table, but we also need to do something for our solicitor, as I said in caucus. But we'll deal with what's on the table. If there's not any discussion, there's a motion and it's been seconded. Unless there's any other discussion, could you repeat that motion so that people know what they're voting on?
The salary ordinance would be amended to read 7% increase to $81,300.
That's up from what?
It's currently 78,293 would be the so-called 3%.
Okay. Any other discussion, or we'll call for the question? Call for the question.
On the amendment to ordinance 119, Mr. Shank,
No.
Mr. Anderson,
Absolutely, yes. And sorry, Doug. Wow.
Mrs. Clear, Mr. Rastetter,
Yes.
Mrs. Rennie,
No.
Mrs. Showerman,
Yes.
Chairman Horton.
No.
The motion fails.
Oh, the amendment.
Correct.
The amendment failed. Okay, so let's deal with the ordinance as is.
Mr. Anderson,
No.
Mrs. Clear,
Could you repeat, Mr. Smith?
so this would be a vote on ordinance 119 as presented on today's agenda, which reflects a salary of $78,293.
And that's the 3%. Yes.
Mr. Rastetter,
Yes.
Mrs. Rennie,
Yes.
Mrs. Showerman,
No.
Mr. Shank,
Yes.
Chairman Horton,
Yes.
ordinance passes.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, ma'am.
do I have permission to speak?
Yes, ma'am. You have the floor.
I would like to say that although I voted for the 3%, I do not feel that the 3% is necessarily reflective of the work that Mr. Smith does and the amount of work and the responsibilities that have been added over the last few years, especially this last year. And I am anxious to have his position reevaluated for the future, because I do not believe that, although I agreed for the 3%, I do not agree that that is his worth. That is, sorry, the worth of that position. And I am anxious to work with other council members to see that it is reflected with the personnel, human, what are we, relation, no, whatever they, Ms. Zaidaluca, and that we represent something there so that we can get this rectified in the coming months. And I yield.
Thank you, Councilwoman Clear. I think we spoke at finance in terms of the other position in our office too, and trying to write that through the prescribed remedy, which is the pay matrix and reclassification. And so while no one certainly undervalues Mr. Smith and his contribution to that or his staff, I just felt that it would be a precedence, or I didn't want to go down that road getting off of the matrix. And I look forward to reevaluating and to explaining the scope of work in further detail on what all he does and the level of commitment that it takes. And I don't think you'll have a problem getting that reclassified, but there is a prescribed method to do that. Yeah. May I have the second reading of ordinance number 120 of 2020 in title only, please, Mr. Smith?
Second reading of ordinance number 120, 2020, 2021 appointed official salary ordinance, first assistant county solicitor.
So moved.
Second.
It's been properly moved and seconded by councilpersons Showerman and Rastetter. Any discussion? Roll call, Mr. Smith.
On ordinance number 120, Mrs. Clear,
Yes.
Mr. Rastetter,
Yes.
Mrs. Rennie,
Yes.
Mrs. Showerman,
Yes.
Mr. Shank,
Yes.
Mr. Anderson,
Yes.
Chairman Horton.
Yes. Second reading of ordinance number 121 of 2020 in title only, please.
A second reading of ordinance number 121, 2020, 2021 appointed official salary ordinance for 2 assistant county solicitors.
So
So
moved.
moved.
Been properly moved and seconded by councilpersons Shank and Showerman. Any discussion? Call for the question.
On ordinance 121, Mr. Rastetter,
Yes.
Mrs. Rennie,
Yes.
Mrs. Showerman,
Yes.
Mr. Shank,
Yes.
Mr. Anderson,
Yes.
Mrs. Clear,
Yes.
Chairman Horton.
Yes. Okay, make note on your agendas. You have them in front of you that this is where we have the amendment inverting M and N, I mean P and N. So the next reading will be second reading of ordinance number 124 of 2021.
Did we want 123 before that, council solicitor, Mr. Chairman?
We already amended the agenda.
We did 121. We amended the agenda to invert those, and so I would go with.
I see. Okay.
Yeah, so I would go with the second reading of ordinance number 124 of 2020 entitled.
Okay.
That is how you put it forth, Vice Chairman Anderson.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yes.
Great.
A second reading of ordinance number 124, 2020, 2021 general fund budget establishing grade for election office supervisor as determined by JL Nick Consulting.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
I'd like to table this ordinance.
It's been moved to table. Is there a second?
Second.
It's been properly moved and seconded. Any discussion? Roll call on the table. The motion.
Mrs. Showerman,
Yes.
Mr. Anderson,
Yes.
Mrs. Clear,
Yes. Sorry, but I couldn't find my thing. Yes.
Mr. Rastetter,
Yes.
Mrs. Rennie,
No.
Mr. Shank,
Yes.
Chairman.
No. Okay, the next
Motion
one.
passes.
Okay, the next one will be second reading of ordinance number 123 in title only.
Second reading of ordinance number 123, 2020, 2021 County Council Solicitor Retainer.
So moved.
Second.
Been properly moved and seconded by councilpersons Anderson and Shank. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
On ordinance 123, Mr. Shank,
Yes.
Mr. Anderson,
Yes.
Mrs. Clear,
Yes.
Mr. Rastetter,
Yes.
Mrs. Rennie,
Yes.
Mrs. Showerman,
Yes.
Chairman Horton.
Yes. Let me just say this too, because that's another position that we want to, that we know that we can justify. We know that that workload was, to say that it increased would be an understatement. And so I'll be looking to try to right that in the new year as well. There's no way on God's green earth that the county council solicitor should be making the same money just about that a new assistant DA is making, not after 20 something years of service. I would have actually rather just put a monetary dollar figure on and set the salary for Mr. Smith. And I would like to do the same in the new year for, well, so we missed that boat right there, but I'd like to try to write both of these in the new year. I just want to do it within the structure of the pay plan. Maybe at that point, we can look at possibly making it retroactive or something like that as well.
Mr. Chairman.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
I have to say, we just had an opportunity to do that. And we let the county executive take the authority right out from under county council and put us in a pay matrix that only exists because we created it. But it doesn't pertain to setting the salary of our people, including our solicitor, our county clerk, or any other positions that we have. But it does now, because we just did that. You just accepted it.
Mm-hmm.
We just accepted it. And
Right.
we didn't even blink an eye at giving the county solicitor, who I would say does less work than our solicitor, and that's no offense to the county solicitor. We just gave him over a 16% raise. What pay matrix is that in?
Yeah.
The county executive chose to bring that salary down, and we passed it without even blinking an eye. And that's not to say that he didn't deserve it, but our people deserve it. And we got suckered right into, it'll be out of the pay matrix. You don't think they went out of the pay matrix? The county executive has taken care of her own people over and over and over again. And county council does not take care of their own people. I have no problem standing up, whether we're in the paper tomorrow, the next day, or the day after that, and saying, I'm loyal to my people and the people that I work with. I have no problem in defending that with anyone. And none of us should have a problem with that.
Right.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Vice Chairman Anderson. I will make some comments on the heels of that. I think we still have the opportunity to do it and do it within the confines of the prescribed method. I offered up a suggestion in the caucus in terms of just putting a monetary figure on the solicitors, and it got no traction. Sure, you could have said, hey, yeah, we're gonna set it at 75,000. But when you just come with the 7%, and what our solicitor was trying to do was separate the way that we hired him, I mean, the way that we arrived at his pay increase from the way that the county executive arrived at hers. And one have nothing to do with the other. I really don't care what she does with her people. I care about our people. And I don't believe for 1 second that any of our colleagues are not loyal to our people. And so I'm going to push back on not saying that you're not or extra loyal, but I think all of our colleagues are loyal to the people in our office. And I think there's more than one way to get to the Mill Creek Mall. Just because it's not my ideal doesn't mean it's not a good idea. And so I have no qualms about how we handled it. I'm sure we'll get to where we're going to, or where we want to get, but we could do that within the prescribed solution once again. And so I think we're on one.
Mr. Chairman?
Mm-hmm. Sure, Counselor. Yes, he froze.
It froze.
Wi-Fi must be off.
We'll give it a second.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
not to advance my own self, I wouldn't want to do that. But I've been here for 30 years and I've always erred significantly on the side of giving council its due as my client, as much power, namely under the Home Rule Charter. But just this evening, we saw County Council approve the raises for 5 different solicitors for 20% each. Each of the solicitors, as recommended by the administration, just got raises of 20% each as approved by council. And council would not approve a 7% raise for Doug. And I could tell you that there is no way that an assistant solicitor for Erie County does anywhere near the work that our county clerk does.
Hear, hear.
But it's just something that council should consider. I feel the county council has to remember that it has authority and it should not always simply defer to the administration. It's not an insult to the administration when county council asserts its own authority. And a lot of times council has tended to do that more recently.
I think that we did assert our authority, and we elected to go at it a different way at this time. I don't think we lost anything. I think we enacted a pay plan that was enacted by this body. It went through a committee. We arrived at it, we adopted it. All of those appointed officials were in there. There was some got some hefty raises. I'm not saying that our clerk or our solicitor should not be compensated because the worker is worthy of his hire. I'm saying do the 3% and revisit it in January. And
I understand, Mr. Chairman, I understand. I'm really not talking, I'm really talking about the other side, how council could simply give all the solicitors a 20% raise and then still talk about 3% and 7% with its own people. You know, that's a hefty raise, 20%.
Mr. Chairman,
yes, Council.
with all due respect, this is not a legal opinion. This is a political opinion. And I would suggest that we move on from here. Comparing the two salaries are comparing apples and oranges. You're comparing contracted employees with permanent county employees, and those are two very different things. Some are in the pay matrix and some are not because they are contracted services.
Mr. Chairman, your solicitor is a contracted employee.
I know.
You just gave them 3% and you gave the other contracted employees 20%. You got to understand, you can really compare apples to apples.
Listen, I sent out a memo. I asked you guys to consider giving them a $50,000 salary. and I didn't hear anything. I didn't hear anything. And so I'm going to follow Ms. Rennie's suggestion, and we're going to move on through the agenda. We've already said we'll revisit it. I don't care. I mean, I shouldn't say I don't care, but I tend not to worry about what the county executive does unless it affects us, which isn't always easy to do. But we're going to move on, get through our agenda, and we'll try to write it in the new year. Mr. Smith, may I have the second reading of ordinance number 122, I believe it is, in title only.
Second reading of ordinance number 122, 2020, approval of 2021 Erie County non-bargaining employees pay plan.
So moved.
Second.
Been properly moved and seconded.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
I'd like to ask that we amend this ordinance since we tabled number 122. We now have the position of elections office supervisor out of grade to be able to get paid. So I would like to ask that we move to amend the ordinance number 122 for the elections office supervisor to be under pay grade 15. She can't get paid unless we change her grade.
There's a motion on the floor.
Sorry, could that be repeated? I'm so sorry, Carl. Mr. Anderson.
Yeah, it would be to amend this ordinance number 124 to put the elections office supervisor position in the right pay grade so they can be paid, because we tabled the other ordinance. So we have to move the election office supervisor to a pay grade 15. That was the motion.
That's a motion on the floor. Is there a second?
Second.
Been properly moved and seconded by Councilman Anderson and Rastatter. I'm going to probably oppose this one too for the same reasons. I think it should come through. The reclassification should come through the prescribed method that we set in place. But is there any discussion on it?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
I just wish to point out that the action sheet that council passed in the budget established the grade as a 15. This merely makes it consistent with that particular ordinance. I suppose it might be a legal opinion as to which one stands, but they would stand in opposition if this isn't changed.
Yeah. Can I hear from Amanda, then Councilwoman Rennie on that? I think we had discussion on this Thursday.
All right. Did you want Amanda to speak first on this?
Yes.
Are you able to hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Yes, given that council tabled the ordinance to change the position from a 15 to a 14, the supporting documentation in this particular ordinance that you're considering now does list the position as a 14. So in order to make it consistent with what is in the budget, and based on the fact that you tabled the earlier ordinance, this position would need changed on the supporting documents for this ordinance. Does that make sense?
Yep.
To be consistent.
Councilwoman Rennie?
Yes.
Be consistent with the pay plan.
Councilwoman Rennie, you have the floor.
Thank you. In 2019, council voted to approve the county pay matrix, covering all county employees without exception. That includes the employees that report directly to county council. It was a very long process of 30 to 40 years, which finally depoliticized the process, took an arbitrary political process of giving pay, establishing pay grades, depoliticized it, made it impartial, gave it structure, gave it a process that was fair and objective. And now we are looking at turning it around and once again pulling out individuals to politically give them pay raises outside of the pay matrix. It really just doesn't even make sense to do it that way. There is a process in place. If we all agree that people are deserving of raises, there is a process that we can take that through. And by flexing political muscle instead of that, again, we are negating the very process that we set it up to be fair, to be impartial, and to depoliticize it. It's completely counterproductive. Thank you. I yield back.
Thank you. Any other discussion?
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
Councilman Moore?
I guess I'm thinking that this was something I wanted to look at tabling until until we can actually get the appropriate pay matrix.
Can't get paid. We gotta do something.
She wouldn't not just fall underneath of what we already passed in our budget? Because we passed the 15 in the budget. But if we go ahead and actually now call it a 14, then if we table the 14, she'll still get paid as the 15 but then we can revisit the
We classify it like we're going to do the other positions. We're going to just try to go through the channel. They went through and they came back and said it was a 14, and we're going to push back and say that, no, we got all this other stuff that was piled on us at the unsurmountable about of work, and she won't have a problem going to 15. But again, I don't want to go outside. I don't want to set precedents. And
Mr. Chairman.
Hold on a second, Carl. Yeah, I don't want to set precedents and start the another deluge of departments coming down like we used to. It did prove to be very counterproductive. Vice Chairman Anderson, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm not sure who we want to hear from. The head of HR just said that we have to change the pay matrix for her to get paid. We have to change the level. She's now out of class. It does not mesh with what the budget says. They have her as a 14, we have her as a 15. Whether, again, going back to, we can make these changes as you guys have suggested next year, whether she goes back to a 14 when we take it off the table, then back to a 15. For now, for her to get paid, the head of HR just said that we have to move her to a 15. We have to amend it to a 15. I mean, this should be, we shouldn't even need discussion on this at this point. Thank you, Mr.
Any other members of council desiring to be heard? Call for the question. Oh, I'm sorry, Councilwoman Showerman. They move you guys around like Hollywood squares. I'm looking for you.
That's quite all right. This is just to coincide with our action plan that we already passed with the budget, where we made her a 15 on that. And in order for the whole thing to go through, she's got to go through as a 15. Anything else can be addressed next year. But in order to get through and get her paid, or anyone else, she's got to go through as a 15 because we already passed the action plan with the budget. That's all.
Amy? I'm smiling.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, yes, sir.
I just want to point out that this is technically a reduction of 2 cents per hour in pay.
Yeah, we really want to reclassify it. So, listen, unless there's no more discussion, anybody have anything else for the good of the order? I call for the question.
On the amendment to the exhibit of ordinance 122, Mrs. Clear,
Yes.
Mr. Rastetter,
Yes.
Mrs. Rennie,
No.
Mrs. Showerman,
Yes.
Mr. Shank,
Yes.
Mr. Anderson,
Yes.
Chairman Horton,
No.
amendment passes.
Mhm. So, second reading of, let's do roll call on the amendment. On the vote.
On the ordinance as amended, Mrs. Clear,
Yes.
Mr. Rastetter,
Yes.
Mrs. Rennie,
No.
Mrs. Showerman,
Yes.
Mr. Shank,
Yes.
Mr. Anderson,
Yes.
Chairman Horton,
No. Okay. Second reading of ordinance number 125, 2020 in title only.
a moment, Mr. Chairman.
Oh, take your time.
I'm ready, Mr. Chairman. My apologies.
Oh, no problem, Mr. Smith. Whenever you're ready.
A second reading of ordinance number 125, 2020, repeal of 2021 Erie County Budget Action Sheet number 18 of the general fund.
So moved.
Second.
Been properly moved and seconded by Councilperson Showerman and Shank. Is there any discussion? Roll call on the ordinance.
Mr. Rastetter,
Yes.
Mrs. Rennie,
Sorry, muted. Yes.
Mrs. Showerman,
Yes.
Mr. Shank,
Yes.
Mr. Anderson,
Yes.
Mrs. Clear,
Yes.
Chairman Horton,
Yes. Resolution number 58, 2020. Mr. Smith.
resolution number 58, 2020, authorizing the filing of a proposal for funds with the Department of Community and Economic Development, Commonwealth of Pennsylvania.
So moved.
I'll second it.
Been properly moved and seconded by councilpersons Clear and Showerman. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Resolution 58, Mrs. Rennie,
Yes.
Mrs. Showerman,
Yes.
Mr. Shank,
Yes.
Mr. Anderson,
Yes.
Mrs. Clear,
Yes.
Mr. Rastetter,
Yes.
Chairman Horton,
Yes. Resolution number 59, title only.
Resolution number 59, 2020, approval of 2021 operating capital budget of the Erie County Convention Center Authority and associated properties.
So moved.
Second.
Been properly moved and seconded by councilpersons Shank and Rastetter. Is there any discussion? Call for the question.
Resolution 59, Mrs. Showerman,
Yes.
Mr. Shank,
Yes.
Mr. Anderson,
Yes.
Mrs. Clear,
Yes.
Mr. Rastetter,
Yes.
Mrs. Rennie,
Yes.
Chairman Horton,
Yes.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, ma'am.
if you wouldn't mind, I would just like to thank Amy Schwarzfager for our CPA for taking a look at all of the proposals that were brought down that were the annual budgets for the Erie COG and the Erie Convention Center Authority, et cetera. So I just thank you while Doug is doing his thing. Just want to thank her for doing that. She really did put in a lot of work for that. And I want to recognize that. We really lucked out with Ms. Schwarzfager. So
Thank you for those kind words. And I concur. Resolution number 60, 2020 in title only, please.
Resolution number 60, 2020, a resolution to approve the annual budget of the Erie Area Council of Governments for the calendar year ending December 31, 2021.
So moved.
Second.
Properly moved and seconded by councilpersons Anderson and Shank. Any discussion? Call for the question.
On resolution 60, Mr. Shank,
Yes.
Mr. Anderson,
Yes.
Mrs. Clear,
yes.
Mr. Rastetter,
Yes.
Mrs. Rennie,
Yes.
Mrs. Showerman,
Yes.
Chairman Horton,
Yes. Resolution number 61, 2020, please.
resolution number 61, 2020, approving the audit and financial statements of the Erie Area Council of Governments for the year ending December 31, 2019.
So moved.
Second.
Properly moved and seconded by councilpersons Anderson and Showerman. Any discussion? Roll call.
On resolution 61, Mr. Anderson,
Yes.
Mrs. Clear,
Yes.
Mr. Rastetter,
Yes.
Mrs. Rennie,
Yes.
Mrs. Showerman,
Yes.
Mr. Shank,
Yes.
Chairman Horton,
Yes. Resolution number 62, 2020.
Resolution number 62, 2020, approving Erie County Sheriff Department Solicitor Contract.
So moved.
Second.
Properly moved and seconded. Councilperson Showerman and Clear. Call for the question.
On Resolution 62, Mrs. Clear,
Yes.
Mr. Rastetter,
Yes.
Mrs. Rennie,
yes,
Mrs. Showerman,
Yes.
Mr. Shank,
Yes.
Mr. Anderson,
Yes.
Chairman Horton,
Yes. Resolution number 63 in title only.
Resolution number 63, 2020, approving the 2021 Erie County Clerk of Records Solicitor Contract.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Councilperson Showerman, seconded by Councilman Shank.
Shank.
Yeah. I'm talking too much. Call for the question.
On Res 63, Mr. Rastetter,
Yes.
Mrs. Rennie,
yes,
Mrs. Showerman,
Yes.
Mr. Shank,
Yes.
Mr. Anderson,
Yes.
Mrs. Clear,
Yes.
Chairman Horton,
Yes. Resolution number 64.
Mr.
Resolu-
Chairman. Excuse me, Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
Excuse me, I just noticed this. I have a technical change on this property. This property is a county property that does not exist in the repository. It predated the repository. This is one of those unusual properties I talked about that we run into from time to time. But I just want to point out, this property is not in the repository. And because of that, I mean, everything else is kind of the same. You would have to waive the purchasing code because we did not get bids on this property.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
there is language in the final stanza which waives the purchasing code. Perhaps then just a striking of the phrase repository wherever it appears would satisfy Mr. Sparber's
Yeah,
enlightenment.
that would be fine.
So strike languishing in the repository, and it would read, it is currently unsold property.
We have to make a motion to do that, Mr. Chairman. I'd make that motion.
Need a second.
Second.
It's been properly moved and seconded by Councilpersons Anderson and Shank. Roll call on the amendment.
Mrs. Rennie,
yes,
Mrs. Showerman,
Yes.
Mr. Shank,
Yes.
Mr. Anderson,
Yes.
Mrs. Clear,
Yes.
Mr. Rastetter,
Yes.
Chairman Horton.
Yes. We have reappointments.
Didn't we just vote on to amend it? Now we have to vote on
Yeah, we have 3 appointments. How you want, I think
We have four, Mr. Chairman.
4. Yes, I forgot.
We do have to approve the resolution as amended,
the, right.
as Mrs. Showerman points out.
Yes. Vote on the resolution. Roll call.
Mrs. Showerman,
Yes.
Mr. Shank,
Yes.
Mr. Anderson,
Yes.
Mrs. Clear,
Yes.
Mr. Rastetter,
Yes.
Mrs. Rennie,
Yes.
Chairman Horton,
Yes. Okay, item Y, we have some appointments. You all want to deal with them all at once or one at a time? Okay. Possible reappointment of James Cartman. Need a motion.
So moved.
Move.
Then properly moved and seconded by Councilperson Schenk and Anderson. Roll call.
Mr. Shank,
Yes.
Mr. Anderson,
Yes.
Mrs. Clear,
Yes.
Mr. Rastetter,
Yes.
Mrs. Rennie,
Yes.
Mrs. Showerman,
Yes.
Chairman Horton,
Yes. Item Z, possible appointment Dave Altman Jr.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
Properly moved and seconded by Councilperson Showerman and Schenk. Roll call.
on the appointment, Mr. Anderson,
Yes.
Mrs. Clear,
Yes.
Mr. Rastetter,
Yes.
Mrs. Rennie,
Yes.
Mrs. Showerman,
Yes.
Mr. Shank,
Yes.
Chairman Horton,
Yes. Double A, possible appointment, Carol Law.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
Properly moved and seconded by Councilpersons Showerman and Clear. Roll call.
on the appointment, Mrs. Clear,
Yes.
Mr. Rastetter,
Yes.
Mrs. Rennie,
Yes.
Mrs. Showerman,
Yes.
Mr. Shank,
Yes.
Mr. Anderson,
Yes.
Chairman Horton,
Yes.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
could I ask that we take items, the possible sale items from BB to GG as one motion?
There you go, my man. Oh, thank you.
I was gonna do that.
I thought you'd do that with the doggone appointments. But it's been
Well,
properly moved and
thank you.
seconded by Councilpersons Anderson and Clear on the amendment. Is there any discussion on the amendment? Roll call on the amendment.
Mr. Rastetter,
Yes.
Mrs. Rennie,
Yes.
Mrs. Showerman,
Yes.
Mr. Shank,
Yes.
Mr. Anderson,
Yes.
Mrs. Clear,
Yes.
Chairman,
Yes. Roll call, vote. Yeah, roll call vote on the appointment. On the sale of the parcels. Because that was the amendment.
Mrs. Rennie,
Yes.
Mrs. Showerman,
Yes.
Mr. Shank,
Yes.
Mr. Anderson,
Yes.
Mrs. Clear,
Yes.
Mr. Rastetter,
Yes.
Chairman Horton,
Yes. Item HH, possible appointment. Carl, help me up.
John Steiner to the Human Relations Commission.
Got it.
So moved.
Second.
Been properly moved and seconded by Councilpersons Anderson and Clear. Any discussion? Roll call on the appointment.
Mrs. Rennie,
Yes.
Mrs. Showerman,
Yes.
Mr. Shank,
Yes.
Mr. Anderson,
Yes.
Mrs. Clear,
Yes.
Mr. Rastetter,
Yes.
Chairman Horton.
Yes. This is our last meeting for the year. We had 299 cases yesterday, with 16 deaths. Looking back, one of the other historical things that happened is the county executive state of emergency ran out. This body was the only one who could reinstate it, and we did that. Please be careful, wear masks, follow all the social distancing. This thing is real. They're lining bodies. They're out of space. And so just everyone, please enjoy your holiday and be safe. Again, it was such a privilege for you all to elect me to be chair this year. I haven't quite got it all in what all we accomplished, but there are other things. We did testing, and we're the first ones to do testing, and so everyone have a safe holiday, and we'll see you next year.
Mr. Chairman.
Station meeting. Yes.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
I guess as one of the new four, I don't want to speak for all of us, but I can at least speak for myself, that I want to thank you for our fearless leader for training us, getting us ready for this. I can't thank you, Mr. Anderson, and Mr. Rastetter enough. Personally, I know I can't thank you guys. I fumbled my way through a lot. And then I had written notes from Mr. Smith, and then I had emails from Nicole. And personally, yeah, I am better for having gone through this last year. I think maybe worse, but I'm definitely I've learned so much from all of you, and I want to thank you for guiding all of us and helping all of us kind of weave our way through this, and especially in a year of a pandemic and the largest presidential election ever in the history of presidential elections. I mean, this is a monumental year. And I think we all have, I'm looking around at all of your faces. I'm so thankful that I have been on this journey with all of you. And I realize I'm getting emotional, but it's the first year. And thank you for being there for all of us, Mr. Chairman.
You all made me a better legislator, and I hope that I had the same influence on you all.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, Carl.
Thank you and congratulations to you. Not only you're not only a trend setter, but you're a history setter as well. And it should not go without mention that you are the first only African-American elected to county council and the first African-American as chair. And that's no small feat. And that is, you're to be commended for that. And I congratulate you on that and all that we've accomplished this year. Your family, and I know especially your parents, would be very proud of you and what you're doing now. So congratulations to you. And I just wanted to also send a shout out to Pleasant Ridge Manor and Bob Smith.
Yes.
They are in perilous times there, and they are doing all they can. The workers, the staff, the doctors and nurses, now the Army National Guard, they are all doing everything they can to assist our seniors that need them so much and their families. And it really has got to a point where we're well over 80%, maybe over 90% of the census population has been positive. And as you mentioned, so many deaths due to this COVID pandemic. So we want to make sure that they know that we're thinking of them as we always are, and the efforts that they're putting in on behalf of us and all of Erie County. And it should be mentioned, Mr. Chairman, that we're thinking of them. So thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. We should get something out there to them. We could talk about it offline.
That's a good idea.
Yeah.
Anyone else, anything for the good of the order?
Mr. Chairman, thank you for all your hard work this year. It's not difficult being the chair, and you did it well. Thank you.
I learned a little bit. It's a little different from the first time. Yeah, I'm really pleased with the work that we collectively, the things that we collectively have accomplished. I mean, just the election stuff alone. Oh, we had all new staff. Yeah, and we implemented new procedures, introduced new voting machines. You could go on and on about the things that happened. You've probably forgotten half of the stuff that you've done this year. But it was all impactful and it was all important. And I'm excited to see what you all will do next year in your sophomore year. I'd say I'm excited to see now that you have your footing. And we do have to come back and reevaluate some things. I'd like to see some things that we didn't get accomplished done this year, but that's a story for another time. I couldn't have did any of it without all of you. All together, the ants ate the elephant.
It's a great group of people.
Yeah, truly amazing. You guys are some of the most peculiar, unique, amazing people. And so I part of the battle was enjoying, or if you can't enjoy me, but tolerating the people around that you work with. And I can say that from Mr. Smith to the solicitor, to the CPA, to all the women and men in the voters registration office, SERPAC, we meshed together as a team. And a team will always be formidable. We were able to, it was tough, but we were able to do some things even with the administration this year, unprecedented levels of cooperation. It's always give and take. It's always nick and tuck. We're always distrusting. We're always honest, but we meandered through the year and we accomplished some things. We have a health department that doesn't have to take a back seat to anyone in the Commonwealth. And the same could be said for Mr. Grappy and our disaster preparedness and our 911 center. They're first class. Erie County has first class people. I wish that we could pay them all more because they certainly deserve it. We couldn't afford to pay. We couldn't pay Doug what he's worth. We couldn't pay Tom what he's worth. Hell, you guys can't pay me what I'm worth.
Funny guy. Real quick there, Mr. Horton. I want a special thank you to Nicole and our newest member of our team, Jill. They keep all of us straight. I know coming in here, fumbling around, trying to pretend to know what I'm doing. If it wasn't for Nicole sending little text messages in the morning, Councilman, don't forget this. And now our newest member, Jill, making sure that we are on track and where we're supposed to be. And we didn't scare Amy off, so that's a plus. We're glad she's still around. Thank you all for your wisdom, your kind words. I know we all didn't agree on things, and I know we're not going to agree on things. But personally, I want to thank all the senior members of council for their guidance and their tolerance of the four. Thank you.
Thanks, Brian. Very kind. Unless there's anything else, I'm going to get off the meeting. Believe it or not, I got to get on another Zoom.
I got to get a
Motion
pizza.
to adjourn, Mr. Chairman.
Huh?
Motion to adjourn.
Yeah.
Second.
Yep.
Bye.
Thanks all. Thanks all.